Which old-fashioned beliefs that men have about women are actually true? When the working day is done, girls just want to have fun. Unironically, this is great dating advice. Men get too caught up in the job interview aspects and forget dates are supposed to be fun. In the dates I go and have fun, things go much better. This is really great advice. If you can have fun and make a date fun, you're set. You can often fascinate one by giving her a piece of cheese. As a woman, can confirm. I'm a woman and I agree. As I sprinkle freshly grated cheese over chili dogs for my wife, I'm glad my silly comment has gained confirmation. Their throwing speed of objects is way worse than men's. I was in a psych of gender class in college, and that category had the largest standard deviation difference between men and women. That reminds me of an interesting fact I heard once. Apparently, among athletes, the ST between women's and men's running is the closest of all events. This is thought to be an evolutionary adaptation to small band rate/violence. Pre-farming. Strictly speaking, it's actually long-range shooting. Women have a smaller heartbeat which keeps macro vibrations down. When you're shooting at distances of over a mile, it can massively change the hit chance. I wonder if this is reflected in the share of women among military and police snipers? I imagine not. Women in the military are vastly underrepresented, but I bet they're fine with it that way, lol. That menstruation is a devil's work and a sign of spooky witchcraft. Werewolves and periods are basically the same thing. Therefore all women are werewolves. I heard bears can smell the menstruation. Bears are generally not interested in women. Source: dating a bear, grizzly or UHH. Black. On average, women prefer validation over advice. AWW babe. That sucks. Apostrophe. We just don't know what to say, okay? Please see above. I've always seen this as a two-sided question, but it's my strong belief that women want to be taken care of. But newsflash, if men are also honest, we want to be taken care of as well. Both sexes make it so hard. We should have both people take care of each other. This is typically what a healthy, functioning relationship looks like. That explains so much. Women want a confident man. I want a woman /view 200D /view 200D. I learned this years ago. Listen to their problems. Agree it suck. Listen to their dreams. Say they're amazing. Listen when they talking for the sake of talking. Please go on, this is riveting conversation. Then give a solution. Make it completely unbelievable. Way out in the world of fantasy. And be pretty creative with it. And make sure you can get some sort of giggle or smile. Anything positive. They tend to come back for more after that. Very specific answer. But, as a woman, I agree, haha. Bitches do in fact be trippin'. Bitches be bonkers. Women become noticeably different during their periods and always deny it. My fiancée is the most amazing woman I've ever met. Gentle, kind, understanding, and communicative. Then, sometimes, she just randomly isn't. Every time, it is extremely random. Not in an extreme way, but in a way that makes me question myself if I'm going crazy. Then, maybe 15 minutes later, maybe an hour or two later, she'll go, I don't know. Maybe it's just because my period just started. It's like, oh, you think? About a week each month I consider divorce because it gets unbearably bad. This has been happening for 20 years. I hear you. My wife is so nice and kind and patient, but once a month she is just the meanest person I have ever met. I had a GF years back. I distinctly recall her getting her period and that there was definitely a dangerous look about her that wasn't there normally. I have the opposite of actually true. I'm an old guy, so naturally I have old-fashioned beliefs. I figured out a few years ago that I was inculcated against my conscience thinking, with the belief that women were delicate little flowers that needed to be protected. I figured that I held this belief, despite a lot of evidence to the contrary in my own life. When watching women's handball at the Olympics, have you ever watched a game? The players can't cross the half circle outside of the opposing goal on their feet, so they fling themselves across the line and then throw the ball at the goal just before they hit the ground. A good game for a lot of these women is only one broken rib or collarbone in a game. Delicate little flowers. I love having my beliefs challenged. Inculcated. Great word. Love it. Being on a period will lead to significant mental and physical change. The nice guys finish last is partially, but not entirely true. It's more complicated than that. Nice guys can often come across like they have low self-respect, always putting others before themselves, and shying away from conflict. That can be unattractive, because if a man naturally puts everyone else before himself in most situations, that's not very good when he may have to be more assertive for the good of the family unit later down the line. She won't want to be put in second place in society alongside him. I always thought nice guys finish last was about something else. Want to have a happy wife? Put that line into practice. When a woman is irritable as fuck, she is very likely either hangry or menstruating. Answer: get them their favorite candy. I get my wife her favorite candy and all of a sudden the world is good and green again. Does not work for me. She is always on a diet and would get angry with me that I'm tempting her with her favorite food. If she's always on a diet, it's not working. They be shopping. I thought that the phrase women get angry on their period was invented by some idiots who won't stop complaining. Then I got together with my first girlfriend when I was 16. Everything is history after that. They only come out at night and they live in a tree. Some women want a guy who treats themselves well more than they want a guy who treats them well. They taste better with salsa. Also, you've found a keeper if she lets you put salsa on it before eating. Why you put salsa on it? Daddy likes it spicy and chunky. Sounds like it might sting a bit. In all the right ways. No matter what you are doing, they will point out what you are not doing, or how you're doing it wrong. Girls just wanna have fun. The women around me hate when you tell them they act different BC of their period. Many of you say that lol. I must have been lucky BC all women I know admit it themselves. My mother-in-law and my girlfriend both deny any kind of conversations about women missing. I find that weird BC most women I know, including my girlfriend and daughter, talk about their emotions when they are menstruating. Exactly. During period, now, we are mostly normal, with just a few exceptions. 3 to 4 days before. You better beware. The old adage, if she is not happy, nobody's happy. Just personal experience. But I've seen so many women walk into a room full of relatively happy people or smaller family settings, and just slowly but surely bring the entire mood down. Isn't that true with men too? Anyone can sour the mood when they express their anger, of course. But it's much less socially acceptable and something to work on, rather than a genuine outpouring of emotion. They are more in touch with their emotions, which I guess, not know with all the depth of the cosmos, and declare absolute truth, is because testosterone muffles emotions a bit, and because women from an evolutionary perspective, had a closer bond in the first months, or maybe even years, with their child, which is basically just a bundle of needs, and communication via emotions. So if that is true, I guess it would be natural and advantageous for women on average to be more emotional than men. Drive K on YouTube was explaining why men dislike couples counseling, and one of them is that women are naturally better at communicating emotions, so men feel outgunned during joint sessions. I've seen a couple of interviews where divorce attorneys explained what is happening during couples counseling based from the perspective of the divorce attorney. They reported that feelings in general are taken into account during these sessions, which is nothing anyone can deny or confirm. That most often the reports of feeling X, Y and Z done by women are accepted more readily, while male emotions are seen as something wrong or to work on, which led, for example, James Sexton to the conclusion that couple counseling is basically a mechanism that primarily backs up women to justify their decision to divorce the man. This he backed further by saying that women would not come back to these sessions when they are not being affirmed, equals the counselor gets not paid, while the man usually will, even if the criticism of him is not legit, in general or to him personally. So the incentive on part of the counselor is also to affirm the women, rather than offer serious counseling. Again, Reports of some divorce attorneys. Not the ultimate truth to end all truths. But in these cases this is interesting as the female emotions are actually backed up by the way the social dynamics work. Which then means she has no reason to ever assume acting less emotionally may be a viable or a more desirable way forward. Their periods attract bears. Till. Women typically have at least one lung. Go on. The whole left brain/right brain difference is pretty well understood. Women have more developed language centers and underdeveloped spatial centers. For instance, the effects of estrogen and testosterone are well understood. This translates into a lot of stereotypes which are true when understood in context, such as women are more emotional, etc. In this case, it's not that they are more in touch with feelings. They are simply better at articulating them through language, in addition to estrogen priming certain emotions over others. Honestly, most of them, women were better understood hundreds of years ago than men are now. Slight caveat though, because a lot of people think that very new ideas are very old. Women were never seen as unfit to work. For the overwhelming majority of Western history, women worked similar hours to their husband. They worked slightly easier tasks and slightly fewer hours. But that's actually still true today. The whole housewife baby thing is a brand new idea that started and basically ended in a few decades. And I have no idea why people think it's traditional. My dad had this fascinating book from the early 20th century. It sort of functioned as a yearbook for the small industrial town he grew up in, where every business, church, school, organization and government activity took group photos. What I recall is that except for the heaviest, dirtiest jobs where brute strength was a prerequisite, most of the industries employed lots of women, and in ratios not dissimilar to today. A lot of men seem to think that prior to the 1960s women didn't actually work outside the home. If you provide for her emotionally, physically, financially and sexually, then the real one will never leave. I live by that now. Are you sure? Do they provide some stuff too? A little. I have the purse.